Okay, folks, how we doing? How we doing? This is Who Did You Boycott today? Uh, this is a very, very unexpected broadcast. I did not wake up this morning thinking about doing a broadcast, but working behind the scenes on my computer, doing a lot of tasks that I need to get done. I've been paying attention to what's been going on these social media apps pertaining to excuse me, Twitter land. Well, first, let me start off by saying shout out to the persons that I put in my title: LeFarmer, AEON, and Talent, New Negro Republic. Also, a special shout out to Janet Jackson. I made a room about her a day or two ago, and my thoughts were gathered. And I had to gather my thoughts of what I needed to say to be able to honor Janet Jackson for the bravery that she showed in how she answered the question as to whether or not Kamala Harris is black. So once again, a special shout out to Janet Jackson. I grew up with the Jackson Fives. That's the clearest memory. One of my most clearest memories is growing up with the Jackson Fives. My childhood memories, we my brother told us, it was 7 of us. My brother, the oldest brother, told the rest of the siblings we had to learn 2 things. My brother said very clearly we had to learn 2 things. We had to learn how to dance and we had to learn how to fight. I remember that, and I couldn't understand it when I was a young child and I heard those words come out of my brother's mouth. You are going to learn. You have 2 things to learn. You have to learn how to dance and you have to learn how to fight. And when we were growing up, we had dance contests. We would have dance contests and we would win candy. Whoever won the dance contest would get candy. And being a young child, that was something that stuck in the memory, because all kids love candy. And so those Jackson Fives music got my family and me through a lot of hard days. Those earlier days of growing up in the projects. Then we moved from the projects in 1971. But my first 9 years on the earth was in the projects. And my mother, she had music. We had music in the house. We didn't have a whole lot. My mother could barely put clothes on our backs and keep a roof over our head and food on the table. But I remember those precious memory of those dance contests and listening to the Jackson Fives and my sister trying to sing like the Jackson Fives and all of us trying to dance like the Jackson Fives. It was a very, very special time. It was so special. It just warms my heart to think back to those days. No matter how hard things got, we always could turn on the music. No matter how hard a day was, how hard a week was, how hard a month was, we could turn that music on and we could escape. And we escaped the many a days to get through the next day and the next day and the next day. It was a lifesaver. No, I can't put it in no other words than that. The music that we grew up on, it was a lifesaver. Many persons may not be able to relate to that. They may not be able to fully comprehend the power of the music that empowered each of us when we walked out the door, when we had to survive another day and another day and another day. That's what we turned to. It was the music. And it's only fitting that it makes sense when you connect the dots. The ancestors sung their songs. They sung their songs, and they sung those songs on those slave plantations day after day, day in and day out. Our ancestors, they sung the songs that got them through day in and day out on those slave plantations. After burnings and lynchings and hangings, they always knew they could sing their songs and they would survive another day with the blessings of the good Lord. They knew they had the blessings of the good Lord to be blessed with another day. And they sung those songs and they made it through another day and another day and another day. And they passed that down. They passed that down to the descendants. So it only makes common sense, and it's fitting that when I was blessed into the world, my strongest connection was music. I remember them giving me a nickname called Aqua Boogie. It still makes me laugh to this day because I was a very, very shy person growing up. I was very, very shy. But I remember them giving me these different nicknames. One was called Ack Quack. One was called Aqua Boogie. And we were some dancing fools. Me and my sisters and brothers in my community, we were some dancing fools. And me being shy, and my mother didn't allow us to go to parties. She didn't allow us to go to parties very much. I remember going to a few. I probably can count them on my hands. It didn't happen too many times during those young days of growing up to 18. I remember getting a chance to go to a few parties, and I guess that's when they pegged me with the nickname Aqua Boogie. But as I grew up, my main nickname was AJ because I played sports. But I have the most precious memory of those dance contests that my older brother would let us have so we could win candy. And it was the Jackson Fives that was playing throughout my home all the time. I think I have a couple of souvenirs or whatever they want to call them that have the Jackson 5. I think it's a Jet magazine, and what else is it? I think I even have the 45, the record 45 of the Jackson 5s in my collection. I did have Michael Jackson album, but I got that got misplaced over the years. But so a special thanks goes out to Janet Jackson. As I started to say, as I made my title in honor to her and her family and all her family members that are going through the death of Tito, my heart goes out to her family that that the Heavenly Father bless them in the days forward to find peace from the loss of their brother and loved one. Um, there will be so much pain in the coming days, but the least that I could do was to make my title in honor of Janet Jackson for her bravery to speak truth to the fact that Kamala Harris is not black. So I made that title because Janet Jackson had the bravery to speak truth to power, evil, and money. Those three things. Janet Jackson opened her mouth and spoke truth to those three things: power, evil, and money. And it goes without saying that it was a lifeline for many of us to be able to bear witness to that in our lifetime. There have been many, many persons over the history of our lived experience that have shown bravery. There have been too many to count over the history of our life experience on this landmass called America. We speak about them constantly. Some names are more well known than others. So many, as I said, are too many to count. So I go back in my memory and I try to think of someone very, very special. But no one was more special than my mother. No one on this earth has been more special than my mother. My mother was and is my world. May she rest in peace. I know she's looking down on me and my brothers and sisters. And thank God that the good Lord blessed me with a special mother. My mother was my role model. She was the role model in my life. Every day I woke up, she was the role model that helped me navigate this world that I have grown up in. I will never be able to thank her enough for all the sacrifices that she made for me and my brothers and sisters, her 7 children that she birthed into this world. I would never be able to thank my mother enough for the sacrifice that she had to make to accomplish the goal to get her 7 kids out of the projects in 1971. It saved our life. It saved our life. I am very proud of those first 9 years of growing up in the projects. I say it often. I am very, very proud of those first 9 years on this earth and growing up in the projects. But I'm more proud of the fact that my mother made that sacrifice. She had that goal to get her 7 kids out of that environment. She clearly knew that if they were going to have a fighting chance, that she had to get them out of that environment. Those were a lot of good days. There were so many good days growing up in the projects. But I also learned at a very young age of 7 years old that my environment was not safe. I had to learn that at 7 years old. So I clearly understand why my mother felt so determined to get her 7 kids out of that environment. And I can't thank her enough. But getting back to why I had to speak about that, because the Jackson 5 and Janet Jackson and her family made it possible, along with my mother, to survive a many of hard days. So many, too many to count. It was the Jackson 5s, Aretha Franklin, all the singers of those decades. We had their music to get us through those hard days. My mother loved Aretha Franklin too. She liked, that was one of her favorite singers. Gladys Knights in the Pits. Gladys Knights in the Pits. I remember them being played, their songs. Smokey Robinson. Who else? Marvin Gaye. Barry White. I can't name them all, but those are the ones that pop into my head. So I cannot begin to thank Janet Jackson enough in words for her bravery to speak truth to power, evil, and money. So now the question is, are we as individuals, Janet Jackson and many that came before her demonstrated bravery. As I mentioned, the person that inspired me was Harriet Tubman. I remember taking Black history in 11th grade, and I read about Harriet Tubman. And from that day forward, I became inspired by her lived experience and the bravery that she demonstrated as she lived her life. It inspired me, and it still inspires me today. When I wake up, I think about Harriet Tubman, but first I think about my mother, and then I think about Harriet Tubman, because no one I honor more than my mother on this earth. But the only person that I can think about that come close to that is Harriet Tubman. But alongside of Harriet Tubman was the Jackson 5s. I grew up with their music. That's all I can remember, is that was a memory that helped me to get through another day, and my family and my brothers and sisters and my community. It was the Jackson 5s. I can't say it enough times. I know that I lived through some hard times like many of us. Many of us have already have a memory of so many hard days that we have lived through. And we clearly are conscious of the reality that many of our people are suffering beyond imagination. They are suffering beyond imagination. Many of them are dying. They are dying by the day, by the hour. They are dying by the day and by the hour. So we have this moment in time. We have a moment in time when we are bearing witness to a person standing up and showing bravery to speak truth to power, evil, and money. And the question that I have for myself is, will I have the ability to summon the courage and the bravery to face what's ahead of me? The question that comes to me when I clearly know I have experienced a moment in time to bear witness to Janet Jackson and many persons like her, many persons like her who are showing bravery daily, day by day. So the number one question that comes to me is, Aquilin, will you be able to look deep inside of yourself and summon the courage and the bravery of what is ahead? I have to ask myself that question. As difficult as it may be, I have to ask myself that question, and I have to be ready to answer it. How do I start answering the question that's before me? I have to answer that question. Aquilin, are you going to be able to summon the courage, the bravery to face what's ahead? Well, I think each of us may be asking ourselves that question. How do we as individuals and collectively be able to embrace the brave sacrifice that Janet Jackson made to fight for a brighter future? How do we do that? How do we take that one human being and embrace that moment in time of that great sacrifice of bravery to speak truth to power, evil, and money? Can you just wrap your brain around that reality? That each and every day that we wake up, we are faced with the question, can we as individuals and collectively speak truth to power, evil, and money? That's the question that's on the table for each of us every single day. It's not clearly broken down like that, but that's what's on the table. If we wake up another day, if the good Lord give us another day, that's what's on the table for each of us. Do we have the courage and the bravery to speak truth to power, evil, and money? Until we can answer that question truthfully, it's going to decide our faith and our future. It's going to challenge us to face that truth. Do we have the ability to speak truth to power, evil, and money? So those are the questions that I find myself thinking about since hearing about Janet Jackson. Those are the questions that I am asking myself, and I'm not going to answer that question quickly. I am not going to have the ability to answer that question instantly. It's going to take time. It's going to take time for me to be able to determine if I can honestly face that question and answer it and fully understand what I have to face. I have to be able to have the ability to face that question truthfully. Will I be able to summon the courage and the bravery to face what is ahead in the coming days and months and years if I'm blessed to still be on this earth? Will I have the ability to face the truth and speak truth to power, evil, and money? Those are the questions that are on the table for me each and every day going forward. And it's been that way pretty much all of our life. When you really get down to the nuts and bolts, that's been the questions. Those are some of the questions that's been on the table for all of us in our lived experience. It's been on the table every day that we're woken up, every day that we wake up. That's been on the table for each of us, from the ancestors all the way up to the present day, the present hour and second that we are living and breathing. It's on the table every day. And so I'm wrestling inside of me. I have a mountain of wrestling that's going on inside of me. And the reason why I'm struggling with this broadcast is because I did not plan to do a broadcast today. It's been a trying 7 or 8 months for me since January. I am in September now. And for the past 7 or 8 months, I've been battling a family matter. And as I speak to you now, I still have that on my plate. But I also know that I needed to come on this broadcast and try to speak what I feel on the inside at this very moment. I needed to try to voice what I feel on the inside at this very moment. And at this very moment, I feel very thankful for the sacrifice and the bravery that Janet Jackson made. But I also know that I have to live in reality. I have to live in reality. And that reality is that America and the whole world is genociding my bloodline. My bloodline is Negro. I don't know if Janet Jackson is a Negro. I don't know if she's a Negro. But without any hesitation, I feel nothing but love and respect for the Jackson family sharing their gift that impacted my life in a positive way, that impacted my family in a positive way, that impacted my community in a positive way. I'm not taking anything from that reality. I'm not going to be able to take anything from that fact. And it will always hold a special place in my heart. But I then have to move forward to my reality. My day-to-day reality is different from Janet Jackson's day-to-day life reality. My day-to-day life is different from Janet Jackson day-to-day life. My reality is that my ancestors that came before me made a great sacrifice. My ancestors made a great sacrifice to save America's union. They made that sacrifice to build the wealth and the infrastructure of America. Those three things, those sacrifices, is my reality. Those three things are the scars and trauma that was passed down in my DNA. I don't know what trauma and scars were passed down to Janet Jackson. I don't know what scars and trauma that Janet Jackson carries inside of her. I only know what scars and trauma that I wake up with inside of me. And so, in knowing that reality, I have to step back and evaluate what is the fight that I have in front of me. It goes without saying before I go forward with what I'm going to say. Janet Jackson and the Jackson family is royalty in the world that I have lived in. What they have given to many of us can never be measured. It will never be measured. But my heart, my personal heart is breaking. My personal heart is breaking because my reality is different from Janet Jackson and the Jackson family. My heart is breaking because the country that I was born in is denying my blood line and my existence. The country that I was born into made my ancestors slaves. The country that I was born into made my ancestors slaves. The country that I was born into have made a decision since 1865, the country that I was born into, the decision in 1865 that Negroes and their descendants were not going to exist. Let me say that again. The America that I was born into made a decision in 1865 that Negroes and their descendants were not going to exist. So they stripped. So they broke a contract. They broke a contract of Special Field Order 15 in 1865. They broke that contract after the Negro ancestors laid down their life and died, fought and died to save this union, this America that most of us run around here and preach about. I'm America. My ancestors sacrificed for this so-called America. My ancestors sacrificed for this so-called America. That all of a sudden we are claiming to be America. Well, we all were indoctrinated into believing that we were America. They programmed and they told us over and over and over that we were America, that we were Americans. We've been told that we were Americans from birth. From birth, we were told we were Americans. Then if we are Americans, someone please answer this question. Can anyone answer this question? If we are Americans, why do not America recognize our ethnicity? If we are Americans, why do America not recognize our ethnicity, our birthright, our identity? Because somebody had better answer this question. If you want to keep on running around here claiming to be American, then you should be able to answer that question. If you are going to say out your mouth you are American, then you should be able to answer that question. You should be able to say, I have a birthright. I have an ethnicity. I have an identity. That's not the case. America decided in 1865 that they were going to break a contract, Special Field Order 15, that gave us our birthright, that gave us our human rights, that gave us our protection. And from that day forward, that very moment, we lost our birthright. We lost our ethnicity. We lost our identity. America just did not spell it out. They just decided not to spell it out. They decided not to spell it out. But when they rescinded, when America rescinded Special Field Order 15, that was our reparations. That was our restitution. Nothing can ever replace that. Nothing on this earth can ever replace Special Field Order 15. That was our restitution. That our ancestors' restitution for 246 years of slavery, for the Civil War that saved the Union. That was our restitution. That was this newfound word called reparation. That was our restitution. And we are in the 21st century, and we are constantly saying reparation. Why in God's name do all these persons who run around here since 1980, preaching about reparations. Like you got amnesia or something. You must be suffering from amnesia. You have to be suffering from amnesia because Special Field Order 15 was the restitution that the Negro ancestors laid down their life and died for. Have y'all forgotten that? Have you forgotten that? You seem to have forgotten it. You seem to have forgotten the reality that many, many persons laid down their life and died to save this union, this precious union that most of you run around here and claim to be American under. You are running around here shouting to the top of your lungs that you are American. Well, I don't think you can be American if you don't have a birthright, if you don't have an ethnicity, if you don't have an identity. You don't have you are not American. You don't have a nation. You don't have a national origin. And you do not have a recognized ethnicity. What is confusing about that? Let's really get down to the nuts and bolts here. We can escape into the clouds over the sacrifice and the bravery that Janet Jackson made. We can clearly escape there. We can escape and wrap ourselves into that moment. We can clearly escape and wrap ourselves into that moment. We can go play her music. We can post about her. We can play her music, and we can give the Jackson family all the praise that we can say out of our mouth. But it's not going to change our reality of what we're going to have to face tomorrow, today, tomorrow, and the next day. It's not going to change the reality that each of us are facing every second of the day. Right this moment, tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Because the bottom line of the discussion about Kamala Harris being black, is that every human being has a birthright. Every human being comes from an original bloodline. Let's all say it together. Let's all say it together. Each human being on the face of the earth comes from an original bloodline, the blood that's flowing through your body and my body and your body. Don't you have blood in your body right now? I know I have blood in my body. I clearly know that's keeping me alive. I clearly am aware of the fact that it's keeping me alive. The blood that's flowing through my body is the conversation around Kamala Harris being black or not. Well, here we are. Here we are. This day was bound to come. This day was bound to come when America and the whole world decided to label Negroes a term called Blk American. It was bound to come. It was bound to come. We were bound to come to this day. We were bound to come to this day. And that's why I put LeFarmer and AEON and talent in my title, because they woke that up for me. They educated me on that reality, that education that I got from being in the Negro space helped me. It helped me personally to look within myself, and ask the question, what is my birthright? Aquilin, what is your birthright? What is your identity? What is your ethnicity? Those are the questions that were going through my mind when I sat in those Negro spaces day after day, hour after hour. And once I had started asking myself that question, I only had to think back to the reality that I had did my family tree search. And when I did that family tree search, my mother had the capital letter N on her census report. My mother had the capital letter N on her census report. Then my grandfather, my grandmother had mulatto. My great grandfather and great grandmother had the capital letter N. So, as I look at this information, I have to understand. I have to make myself understand what I need to understand. I have to process that information. I have to evaluate that information and have a clear understanding of the information that I am receiving. And the information that I am receiving is that my mother my mother identity, ethnicity, it's a Negro. I came out of my mother's stomach. That makes me a Negro. My child came out of my stomach. That makes her a Negro. But America and the whole world and the OMB decided in 1970 that that human beings that had came into the world, had been birthed into the world and descended from their ancestors. They descended from their ancestors whose identity was Negro. I know folks have a problem. A lot of folks have a major problem about this word Negro. Many folks run around on these social media apps and preach about the term Black American. They preach about a term called African American. They preach about a term called freedman. They preach about a term called FBA. They preach about a term called ADOS. And the simple question is simple. What is the blood flowing through your body? As you run around here and regurgitate these words out your mouth, the next question should be, what is the blood flowing through your body? Because if you are stating that you are a Black American, if you are claiming to be a Black American, what is the blood inside of your body? Because a Black American person, human being, has to come from an original bloodline. If you are claiming to be a Black American, you have to come from an original bloodline. You should be able to go trace that bloodline. You should have the ability to trace that bloodline. Where is that blood? Where is that bloodline? Where is that blood result? Can anyone tell me? Can anyone tell me where is the blood? Where's the bloodline of a black person? Who does it include? Does it include the Joneses? The Johnsons? The Smiths? The Andersons? The Jacksons? Who is included in that bloodline called Black American? Well, it looks like, folks, it looks like the rooster has come home to roost. It looks like the rooster has come home to roost. You folks been running around here for well over 2 years saying, do your lineage check. Go do your lineage check. Well, looks like you folks going to have to eat those words. It looks like a lot of you going to have to eat those words, because now you're going to have to put up or shut up. You're going to finally have to put up or shut up. Go do that. Go do that search. Go do that lineage search that you love to talk about. Go do your lineage search and find that bloodline that belongs to that Black American. I want each of you to find that bloodline called Black American. I want you to be able to find and name who belongs to that bloodline called Black American. It's the Joneses, the Johnsons, the Smiths, the Andersons, the Jones. Who is included in that bloodline called Black American? Well, how do you determine who belongs to that bloodline called Black American? What are you using to determine who belongs to that bloodline called Black American? If it's a bloodline, if you are claiming that Black American is a bloodline, well, if Black American is a bloodline, then you should be able to trace who is included in that bloodline. You should be able to clearly show proof of who is included in that bloodline. It should be clearly recognized as an ethnicity. It should be clearly recognized as an ethnicity. It should clearly be able to have a national origin. Where's that national origin? Where's that nation? Those three things is the reality that every immigrant in America have. So if Black American don't have those three things, then how can you claim to be American? Because every immigrant has a recognized ethnicity, have a recognized national origin, have a recognized nation. Where is the recognized ethnicity for Black American? Because Black American is described as a black racial group, of Africa. Okay, let's all say it together. Let's all say it together. The way the OMB is describing an individual person that is a Black American, each adult need to go read that definition and let it marinate on your brain. The next chance you get before you get on a public app and embarrass yourself, before you get on a public app and embarrass yourself and claim to be a Black American, you need to know the definition. You need to have read that definition. You need to have read that definition. And the definition of a Black American and African American is a person belonging to a Black racial group of Africa. Who is they describing? Because a human being cannot be birthed into the world, belonging to a the word general Black racial group. Because every human being belongs to a specific racial group. It may be multiple racial groups, but it is specific all the same. So how can you be a Black American belonging to a Black racial group and it's not Pacific? Because how do any individual person find a Black racial group of Africa? I need for someone to answer that question. How do you go about finding a Black racial group of Africa? But the immigrants, they can find their ethnicity. It's spelled out by the OMB. It's spelled out as Jamaican. Go read it. They spelled out the ethnicity Jamaican. They spelled out the ethnicity Haitian. They spelled out the ethnicity Ethiopian. They spelled out the Pacific ethnicity Nigerian. They spelled out the Pacific ethnicity Somalia. So why don't Black Americans have a Pacific ethnicity? Why don't Black Americans have a Pacific national origin? Why don't Black Americans have a Pacific nation? If you can't answer those questions, why are you running around here claiming you're Black American and African American? Why in God's name are you running around here claiming Black American and African American? As I stated earlier, Negro ancestors carved out 246 years. Whether you want to claim that the white man came up with the term Negro, or that it means dead in Spanish and Portuguese, one thing is clear. One thing is clear, that the Negro ancestors were slaves for 246 years. One thing is clear, that the Negro ancestors heard the slave master say Negro out of their mouth 24/7. Slavery was documented as Negro slavery. It was never documented as Black American slavery. It was never documented as African American slavery. It was never documented as freeman slavery. It was never documented as ADOS slavery. It was never documented as FBA slavery. And seeing as how you folks know you are intelligent, you know you are common sense, if slavery was not documented with any of those terms, how are you pretending? I want to understand, why are you adults pretending? I would like to kindly know, why are you adults pretending that you have an ethnicity, that you have a birthright, a identity? I would like to understand, why are you adults pretending that you have that each of you and your children and grandkids have a ethnicity? Why are you pretending that you have a national origin? Why are you pretending that you have a nation, a birthright, a identity? Why are you pretending that when you clearly have proof that all immigrants have each of those three things? You ain't got to search for it. You ain't got to be confused. A German person, a German person has a recognized ethnicity. It's called German. A German person has a recognized national origin, and it's called Germany. A German person has a recognized nation. It's called Germany. A Jamaican has a recognized ethnicity. It's called Jamaican. A Jamaican has a recognized national origin. It's called Jamaican. A Jamaican has a recognized nation. It's called Jamaica. Okay, are we confused anymore? Is anyone still confused? Do we need to go down the whole laundry list, ethnicity by ethnicity? Can we finally put to rest that the term white and the term black are social terms? They are social terms. They are not a bloodline. Well, I don't get it. You have blood flowing through your body. White, there is no white blood flowing through your body. There's no black blood flowing through your body. Where's the blood bank? Where's the address to the blood bank for the white blood? Where's the address for the blood bank for the black blood? Someone please send me the address for each of those. Since you are been determined to lie to yourself that white and black is a real thing, since you want to convince yourself and others and continue to harm your children and grandkids, someone should be able to send me an address that I can drive to find this white blood bank. I should be able to go to an address for a black blood bank if it's a real thing. Unless you can send me an address, white and black are made up words. They are made up words that evil human beings decided around 1840, and they were going to reach up in the sky and pull out two words. One word was going to be white, and the other word was going to be black, because they wanted to feel superior. They could clearly see that slavery was getting ready to come to an end. They could clearly see that slavery was getting ready to come to an end. So they had to come up with a diabolical plan that, since they were not going to be able to hold on to slavery, they were going to have to come up with another plan to harm those human beings. They were going to have to orchestrate another diabolical plan to harm those human beings. So they said, we are going to call them black. We're going to call them black by their skin color. We're going to call them, we're going to pretend they are black because of their skin color. But they made one major mistake. They made one major mistake. They signed Special Field Order 15. And when they signed Special Field Order 15, they spelled out the term Negro in Special Field Order 15. You see how you connect the dots? Now, when they signed Special Field Order 15, they could have put the word Blk American in that document, but it was non-existent. It was non-existence. It was non-exist. It did not exist. They could have put the word color, C-O-L-O-R. They could have spelled it out in Special Field Order 15, but they only spelled out one word, Negro. They could have put the word African American in that Special Field Order 15. If the ancestors were identifying that way, if any of those ancestors who were living back then were identifying or seeing themselves that way, they would have put each of those words in Special Field Order 15. It would have been the word Negro, the word Black American, the word African American, the word color, the word freeman, the word mulatto. They won't put there. Why? Why do you think all of those other terms were not put into that Special Field Order 15? We're going to have to be honest. We're going to finally have to be honest and face the truth. That's a hard thing to do. It's a very, very hard thing to do, to face the truth. Special Field Order 15 establish the human rights and the birthright and the ethnicity and the race of those human beings who had just come out of slavery. Now we finally going to have to face the truth. We're going to finally have to face the truth. That little blood that's flowing through your body, all you persons who have been on Twitter land claiming and preaching that you got to go do your lineage, well, looks like looks like the rooster done came home to roost. You're going to end up eating those words, because looks like you're going to end up eating those words, because all of us are not from the same bloodline. Oh, Lordy help us. All of us don't have the same blood flowing through our body. And I think folks didn't want to get to this part. They wanted to stay in la la land. They wanted to stay in superficial la la land. They only wanted to keep on running around claiming that we are all black. They didn't want this day to come. While they basking in the glory of Janet Jackson, the part they're not talking about is they finally going to have to face that reality. They finally going to have to face that reality of that blood that's flowing through your body. So if you are claiming to be Native American, then your blood should trace back to a Pacific origin of people. It should trace back to a Pacific origin of people. If you are claiming to be Black American, then it should trace back to a Pacific origin of people. If that is not the case, then why are you running around claiming to be Black American? If you cannot show proof of a bloodline that can be traced back to a original origin, a original bloodline of people, what are you talking about? But if you're claiming, y'all folks running around here claiming that we are amalgamated, what's that word? Amalgamated, whatever that amalgamated word, that you've been amalgamated into a whole nother, you have been amalgamated into a whole nother ethnicity. Well, if you believe that, then each of you should take your little 2 legs and run down to wherever you need to run down to and take a blood test. And once all those blood test results come back, you should all fall into a Pacific new bloodline. You're gonna formulate a completely new bloodline. You're not gonna be Jamaican. You're not gonna be Nigerian. You're not gonna be German. You're not gonna be Asian. You're not gonna be a Jew. So you're gonna produce a completely new original bloodline. If you believe that, then each of you need to proceed to take a blood test and lump all of you into that Pacific new bloodline. Each of you need to go take a blood test and present your evidence to America and the OMB. America and the OMB, this is my blood test to establish a new ethnicity, a new birthright, a new identity. You folks not doing that. You folks are not presenting that evidence and proof to America in the OMB. Because, as I stated before, every immigrant has that proof. They have it on their paperwork. America recognizes their ethnicity. America recognizes their national origin. America recognizes their nation. When has America recognized Black American as an ethnicity? When did America recognize Black American as a national origin? When did America recognize Black American as a nation? I'm waiting for the answer. Just keep in mind, the only definition for Black American and African American is on the OMB website. And it clearly spells out any person identifying as Black American, identifying as African American, belongs to a Black racial group of Africa. America has literally removed you from this landmass. They have literally told you to your face that they have removed you from this landmass. They have removed you. And they did not even care enough that when they removed you from the landmass, that they identified you belonging to a specific group. They just gave you a general definition. They didn't even care enough or have enough respect to at least identifying you belonging to a specific group. They didn't even care or respect enough to do that much. They decided you are going to belong to a Black racial group. But they respected Jamaican enough to spell out their ethnicity. They respected the Haitians enough to spell out their ethnicity. They respected the Caucasians to talk about Europe. They respected the Asians enough to talk about what's that? South Asian, Eastern Asian, or whatever. They respected the Native Americans enough to spell out their national origin. Who national origin is missing? Do anyone need to take a guess? Out of all those ethnicities that are listed on that OMB, the only term that don't have a recognized ethnicity, that do not have a recognized nation, that do not have a recognized national origin is the term Black American and African American. But every immigrant is recognized with a recognized ethnicity, a recognized birthright, a recognized identity, a recognized national origin, a recognized nation. I want anyone to explain to me, do Black American and African American have any of those? Do freemen have any of those? Do the term freeman that folks run around here claiming to be freemen, where is the blood bank for freemen? Somebody send me that address also. While you at it, I want you to send me the address of the blood bank for freemen. I want you to send me the blood bank for AEON. I want you to send me the blood bank for FBA. I want all that information sent to me, please. Since you folks are being determined to keep running around here sounding foolish, you should be able to send me that address pronto. One of you persons can send me that address pronto. If you're claiming to be a Black American, I should be able to get in the car and drive to the blood bank. If you are claiming to be African American, I should be able to get in the car and drive to the blood bank. If you are claiming to be freeman, I should be able to get in the car and drive to the blood bank. If you are claiming to be AEON, I should be able to get in the car and drive to the blood bank. If you are claiming to be FBA, I should be able to get in the car and drive to the address of the blood bank. But Negro do have a DNA blood. Maybe you ain't heard about that. or maybe some of you have heard about it. It was discovered a little over 8 years ago. I see how y'all folks, that's what y'all upset about. America and the whole world, and especially the Jews, clearly know that Negro have a blood line. It's a blood test that you can take to determine if you belong to the Negro bloodline. See how that works? You see how that works? Negro national origin more than likely traced back to Negro land. Negro land is the Negro nation for the Negro bloodline. For all you folks who've been running around here for the past few months trying to paint Negro, y'all done went on a new campaign. Most of you who have been saying Negro out your mouth for the past 2 or 3 months had never said Negro out your mouth before now. It sounds like y'all worried. It sounds like some of you have found out that Negro has a bloodline. So y'all decided, y'all put y'all little brains together and said, we got to go on a new campaign. The campaign that we did for the OMB is in the past. So we're going to have to start a new campaign and paint Negro in a bad light. Because Negro has a bloodline. There's a blood test that you can take that determines if you are Negro. I think some of you folks don't found out about that, because this information was discovered by Pastor Darby before he died a little over 8 years ago. Do y'all hear that? That information was discovered a little over 8 years ago. 8, count it, at least 8 years ago. But my common sense tells me that the Jews in America and the whole world clearly know that there's a blood test out there for Negro. That's why they removed Negro from the census report. That's why they rescinded Special Field Order 15. That's why the slave masters documented slavery as Negro slavery. It wasn't because Negro means Spanish, means dead in Spanish, that Negro means dead in Portuguese, that Negro is a badge of slavery. Y'all don't paint up all these narratives, all these lying narratives, but they all being exposed now. They all being exposed. All of them are being exposed. All you folks are bent out of shape because Negro come from original bloodline. It's going to be hard for you folks to digest it. But all I would suggest is that you have a resuscitation machine standing by. I would suggest that each of you, that is going to be a major blow to you, that you inform someone to have a resuscitation machine standing by, because you're going to need to be resuscitated. Most of you are going to need to be resuscitated. Do you persons really think that the Jews would have gotten so bent out of shape with Kyrie Irving if Negro was not a real bloodline? Do y'all really think that the Jews would have lost their mind the way they did over a link? Can you wrap that around your brain? Do you think that the Jews would have went to great lengths to assassinate Kyrie Irving over a posted link if Negro was not our original bloodline? Did y'all not realize that when that happened, that the Jews sent out 20 million emails to assassinate Kyrie Irving over a posted link that most persons would have never have clicked on. They would have never, never, never have clicked on it. But it terrorized the Jews so badly, they would never be right again. Let's all be clear about that. Since that day that Kyrie Irving posted that link, the Jews lost their mind. They are currently walking around in a shell of a human body. They'll never be right again. As long as this earth is in existence, every time you pass a Jew person, you are passing a shell of a body. They have lost their mind. They'll never be right again. Not one of them. They will never be right again as long as this world is in existence. So the Jews in America, in the OMB, decided that the Negro had to be eliminated. They had to be removed off the face of the earth. And this plan has been in the works since Special Field Order 15 was rescinded. Because America and the whole world clearly understood that the Negro ancestors, who were Negro slaves, had carved out 246 years. They had carved it out with a bone, sweat, and tears and murder, and you cannot get a more foolproof contract than that. It's currently in the soil that each of our feet are planted on. Let's all say it together. Let's all say it together. The Negro ancestors, they carved out 246 years with their bones, sweat, and tears and murder and death of their body. Is in the soil where each of our feet are planted on. Let's all say it together. Each one of us have 2 feet, and each of our 2 feet are planted on the soil that the Negro ancestors' bones and sweat and tears are buried in. And there's no more foolproof contract than that. But just to make it clear, Special Field Order 15 is the contract that the Negro ancestors signed with blood, signed with their life, because they clearly understood. The Negro ancestors, they clearly understood. It's like they could see the future. It's like each one of those persons who drafted up Special Field Order 15, the Heavenly Father helped them to understand the moment in time that they were in. The Heavenly Father touched each one of those ancestors at that very moment and helped them to draft up Special Field Order 15. Because it could only be the Heavenly Father that helped the ancestors, the Negro ancestors, understand that they had to put something in place to protect themselves and their descendants. They needed to put something in writing. And they made the greatest sacrifice with their life. They made the greatest sacrifice with their life for that Special Field Order 15. So Reparations cannot replace Special Field Order 15. I don't care how much you persons run around here and put boots on the ground and cry about voting. I don't care how many boots you put on the ground. I don't care how long and hard you cry about voting and protesting and marching. It's not going to never replace Special Field Order 15. I think God been trying to tell you folks that since 1980. I think God has been trying to tell you persons who are ungrateful since 1980. This newfound definition that you folks done came up with called descendants of slaves deserving of reparations. You came up with your own definition. And your newfound definition is called descendants of chattel slavery, descendants of slaves. You completely left out the word Negro. Why did you human beings leave the word Negro out? Why? It's a simple question. Why did you bring dead human beings who think you are intelligent and common sense? Why did you drop the word Negro and make up a whole new definition called descendants of chattel slavery, descendants of slaves, descendants US? Somebody came up with one called USA descendants of slaves. You do realize the initial harm, let's say the word initial harm, was done to Negroes. And it was recorded. It was recorded as Negro slavery. It was recorded as Negro slavery for 246 years. So, why do you human beings think that reparations is ever going to replace Special Field Order 15? That the Negro ancestors laid down their life for Special Field Order 15. Why do you think that you persons have the gall to think that you are going to replace Special Field Order 15 and call it reparations? I would just kind of like to know why you human beings think that. Why are you running around here lying to people and trying to and convincing them of that madness? Why are you doing it? It's got to be a reason. It's got to be a reason, because you adults cannot be that dumb. You cannot be that dumb and slow. So it's got to be a logical reason why you're doing it. It's got to be a logical reason, because each of you persons either are intelligent or you have common sense. You have one of the two. You're either intelligent or you are common sense. So you're going to have to answer that question. Why are you running around here lying to people and telling them and trying and convincing them that reparations, the word reparations, is going to replace Special Field Order 15? When Special Field Order 15 was sacrificed in blood. It was sacrificed in blood and death. Why do you human beings think you think you're too good to identify as Negro? Most of you think you're too good to identify as Negro. Most of you mothers and fathers have it on your birth certificate. That's how disrespectful it is. I mean, it don't get any more disrespectful than that. I want someone to explain that. Most of you have a mother and a father with the term Negro on their birth certificate. And you can't even respect the fact that your mother and your father have it on a birth certificate. Or some of you have traced it back on the census report. And you still insist on self-identifying. Well, your self-identifying has allowed every immigrant to get priority. Your self-identifying has allowed every immigrant to get priority, to get human rights, to get respect, to get protection, to get resources. Your self-identifying has delivered that reality for well over 54 years. Well over 54 years from the moment that America decided in 1970 to change the term from Negro to Black American, and then later African American. And when you total up the years, it's right over 54 years. Count it up. 1970, I have to give special thanks to Talent New Negro Republic, who researched that information. I give a special thanks to Talent New Negro Republic, who sacrificed time off of his life to research that information for all of us. But you ungrateful human beings don't want to listen to it. You don't want to read it. You don't want to listen to it. You prefer to self-identify. Well, your self-identifying is paying for those EBT cards for these invaders. Your self-identifying is paying that EBT card of each of these invaders. Your self-identifying is paying for their free medical care. Your self-identifying is paying for their rent vouchers. Your self-identifying is paying for their housing vouchers. Your self-identifying is paying for those balances on those EBT cards. Your self-identifying is making sure that your children and grandkids don't have a future. Unless this is flipped, unless you self-identifying human beings don't flip this script in the next year or two, you maybe got 1 year to 2 years to flip it. You maybe, if you're lucky, if you can have a come to Jesus moment and pray for redemption for the disrespect and the dishonor you have shown your ancestors. If you care to do that and be sincere about it, just maybe the good Lord will forgive you. Just maybe the good Lord, the Heavenly Father, will forgive each of you. Because you have shown the whole world how ungrateful you can be. You have shown the whole world how ungrateful you can be. In America and the whole world has told you that you don't have an identity, that you don't have an ethnicity, that you don't have a birthright. They told you you could self-identify. When has America ever been okay with anything that benefit your well-being or your family members or your ancestors? Can anyone name anything? Can anyone name anything that America has been okay with that benefit your well-being? But they were okay with you self-identifying. That should have been a light bulb. Why didn't the light bulb go off for you individual human beings? That America made it very clear that you could self-identify. You self-identify right into Black American, I guess you want to claim. You self-identify right into African American. You want to self-identify right into Freeman. You want to self-identify right into ADOS. You want to self-identify right into FBA. But while you're doing that, somebody needs to establish a blood bank. Because you need a blood bank. If you are going to claim that that's going to be your ethnicity, if you are going to claim that's going to be your national origin, if you are going to claim that's going to be your nation, then you're going to need a blood bank. You're going to have to be able to point to a blood bank of who all is included. Who is all included? And the only way you can determine that is by a blood test. You're going to have, each person is going to have to do a blood test. Each person is going to have to do a blood test. And then all of that, all those blood tests are going to have to be evaluated. And then I guess it's going to have to be broken down into each of these categories. Who belongs to the FBA? Who belongs to the ADOS? Who belongs to the Freeman? Who belongs to the African American? Who belongs to the Black American? Unless each of your blood tests come out matching that you belong to a specific bloodline, that you have these matching things, whatever they call that stuff in your blood. What is it? It's just not coming to me. Now, if each of you Pacific groups take a blood test and it's determined that you want to form a new ethnicity, then you're going to have to demand that of America. You're going to have to demand that the OMB recognizes that new ethnicity. Because if that doesn't happen, you are going to continue to belong to a Black racial group of Africa. It's just that simple. Until each of you take a blood test and establish a new ethnicity, the OMB in America has decided that you belong to a Black racial group. They decided that you belong to a Black racial group, but all immigrants have a recognized ethnicity. All immigrants have a recognized national origin. All immigrants have a recognized nation. And then that sorry Donald Trump said on his I guess his last event campaign trail that he is looking forward to recognizing the Lumbee tribe Indians ethnicity. Well, if Donald Trump can promise that the Lumbee tribe Indians are going to get recognized for their ethnicity and their birthright, what is stopping America from recognizing Negro's bloodline? What is stopping America from recognizing the sacrifice that the Negro ancestors made for 246 years? What is stopping America from recognizing the wealth that was built off the Negro ancestors' back for 246 years. What is stopping America and Donald Trump and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris from recognizing the sacrifice that the Negro ancestors made to save this union? What is stopping America, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Donald Trump from recognizing the infrastructure that was built off the backs of Negro ancestors? But these human beings have the audacity. These human beings in America have the audacity to go before a microphone and recognize every ethnicity while denying the sacrifice that were made by Negro ancestors and denying Negro descendants of their birthright. These human beings are very, very bolden. They are very, very bolden. They have the audacity to step before a microphone and claim that America is built by immigrants. They got some nerve. They got some nerve to go before a microphone and claim that America is a nation of immigrants. America is a nation of immigrants. Immigrants built this nation. Immigrants built the nation of America. Immigrants built the nation of America. So once again, I'm going to get ready to close. I need to ask all of you human beings that are running around here claiming to be American. You can't be American if you don't have a recognized ethnicity. You can't be American if you don't have a recognized national origin. You can't be American if you don't have a recognized nation. L.B. Johnson told America that there's two nations in America, a Negro nation and an American nation. But you ungrateful human beings didn't want to fight and claim the Negro nation, so you self-identified. You self-identified. Because L.B. Johnson made it clear there's two nations in America. Two, a Negro nation and an American nation. That was carved out for 246 years by Negro slaves that created that Negro nation. It was carved out in blood and sweat and tears and bones and murder and hangings and lynchings and burnings. For all you ungrateful human beings that want to self-identify and abandon the term Negro, America is happy that you want to abandon Negro, because they clearly understand that's the only term that gives you any rights on this landmass, because America has placed your behind on the African continent. But the Negro ancestors' bones are still buried in the sand underneath our feet. America clearly understands that. The whole world clearly understands that the Negro ancestors' bones are buried in the sand, the landmass of America. And as long as those bones are buried underneath this ground, the Negro ancestors carved that out with bone, sweat, and tears and murder and lynchings and burnings and hangings. So they carved out Negro bloodline, Negro ethnicity, Negro nation, Negro birthright, Negro identity. They carved that out for 246 years. They continue to identify that way for the next 105 years. Let's all say it together. Let's all say it together. The Negro ancestors, they carved out 246 years with their bones, sweat, and tears, and murder, and hangings, and lynchings, and burnings, and death. They carved that out for 246 years, and then they continue to identify that way for the next 105 years until 1970, when America decided to orchestrate their evil plan to remove Negro. Because Negro was the only term that gave the Negro ancestors and their descendants any rights in this country, any identity, any ethnicity in this country. So America clearly understood when they passed that fake civil rights bill of 1964. America clearly understood when they passed that fake Civil Rights Act of 1964 that they had to get rid of Negro. They was very worried. They was quite worried when they claimed to have passed a Civil Rights Act of 1964 that was supposed to uplift and improve the harm that Negroes had suffered since slavery. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was supposed to repair the harm done since 1865 up to 1964. Let's all say it together. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was supposed to repair the harm that was done in 1865 when America broke the contract of Special Field Order 15, orchestrated Jim Crow laws, Black Code laws, slave prisons, genocide. All that happened before redlining became a real thing. The reason why the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is fake is because if you go read the fine print, it only applies to immigrants. Go read it. I want each of you adults to go really read the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and come back and tell me it don't only apply to immigrants. I want any of you adults to go read Civil Rights Act of 1964 and then send me a DM and tell me it does not just apply to immigrants. It don't apply to Black Americans. Let's just all be clear. It does not apply to African Americans. And it surely don't apply to freedmen, ADOS, and FBA. Okay, we don't even need to include those three. But it clearly does not apply to Black Americans and African Americans. Based on the definition that the OMB website have, America excluded you from the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Go read it and tell me I'm a lie. Go read the definition. Go read the whole description of the wording of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and tell me how you can claim It protects Black Americans. It protects African Americans. I want you to explain to me how any of those wordings in that Civil Rights Act of 1964 applies to Black Americans. I want you to read the whole wording of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and explain to me and anyone else how it applies to African Americans. Based on the definition on the OMB, it does not. You folks don't clearly comprehend what is happening. You clearly don't have a clue what is happening. It's all well and good to be happy for the sacrifice that Janet Jackson made by standing on truth. But Janet Jackson standing on truth did not give you a ethnicity. It did not give you a national origin. It did not give you a nation. Let's just be clear. And your children and grandkids are going to continue to be harmed. It's been 54 years. This choice that each of you adults have to make. Are you going to demand that America recognizes your ethnicity? Are you going to demand that America recognizes your national origin? Are you going to demand that America recognizes your nation? So that when you look in your children's face and your grandkids' face, you can be able to explain to them that you demanded that your country recognize your ethnicity, that your country recognizes your birthright, that your country recognizes your identity. But that cannot happen until each of you adults have a backbone to go take a blood test and determine what bloodline do you belong to. Because Black American and African American is not a bloodline. It simply is not a bloodline. Can nobody argue about that fact, can you? Where's the blood bank address? For all you folks who are claiming that Black American and African American is a original bloodline or a new bloodline, since you want to claim it's a new bloodline, where is the blood test to prove that? So you just can't say something out your mouth and make it a real thing. Keep it on repeating something out your mouth don't make it a real thing. So if you want your children and grandkids to have a recognized ethnicity, a recognized national origin, a recognized nation, then you folks, you adults are going to have to go take a blood test and prove that you are a new ethnicity. What are you waiting on? What are you waiting on? Because the immigrants have invaded. They are here buying up all the land. They are here starting all the businesses. They are on the police force. They are in the military. What are you folks waiting on? Oh, you just prefer to sit on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Clubhouse, fan base, and talk. You're either going to have to put up or shut up, because you're out of time. You are finally out of time. You maybe got 1 year, 2 years, if lucky. You maybe still have 1 year or 2 years if you're lucky. So you got to decide. You either going to Demand that America recognizes your new ethnicity, that America recognizes your national origin, that America recognizes your nation, or you are going to have to figure out how to buy some land and houses and other assets real fast, because this voting thing cannot save you. It's not, you're out of time. It's too late for that. Until you establish your ethnicity, it don't mean nothing for you to vote. It don't mean anything. It's just, you're just going through a process. It don't mean anything. If a human being don't have a birthright, what is more important than that? It certainly is not voting. If a human being cannot have a birthright, how can voting be more important than that? How can voting be more important than a human being's birthright, a human being's ethnicity, a human being's bloodline? How can voting be more important than those three things? Can anyone answer that for me? Can anyone answer that? How can voting be more important than your birthright? How can voting be more important than your ethnicity? How can voting be more important than your identity? How is that possible? Well, in closing, Negro have a bloodline. Many of you folks have found out that truth and you just can't deal with it. You've been out of shape. And I clearly, my heart goes out to you folks. I clearly understand why you want to hold on to Black American. If Black American is what you want to hold on to, then you're going to have to get it established and recognized as an ethnicity. If you clearly want to hold on to the term Black American, then you are going to have to force the OMB to change that definition. You are going to have to proceed to go take a blood test and establish a new ethnicity and decide who is all going to be lumped into that new ethnicity based on a blood test, based on a collective number of human beings taking a blood test. You're going to have to present that proof to America and explain to America that all of these collective blood tests establishes a new ethnicity, a new bloodline. If you have not done that, you are just talking to the wind. You are lying to your people and you are lying to yourself. And the day gonna come when you're gonna have to face the truth with your children and grandkids, unless you plan to lie to them too. The day is going to come when you're going to have to explain that to your children. The day is going to come when you're going to have to explain that to your grandkids. You folks may not care a whole lot about lying to each other. You probably don't care very much about lying to each other. Maybe you care a little bit more about lying to your children and grandkids. Because the day is going to come when you're going to have to explain to them why all immigrants are recognized as an ethnicity, have a recognized ethnicity. You're going to have to explain why your country that you call America, robbed you of your birthright. robbed you of your ethnicity, robbed you of your identity. You are going to have to sit your children and grandkids down and explain to them about that fact someday. But in the meantime, most of you adults don't mind lying to each other. You don't mind it one bit. It seems like you take great pleasure in it. It's like that saying go, misery loves company. Y'all, you just love company, lying to each other. I remember folks used to say that misery loves company. And you folks is running around here, you run around and lie to each other constantly. I'm sorry to break the bad news to you. Negro is the only ethnicity in bloodline that have an official blood test that determines who belongs to that bloodline. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news for all you folks who are offended by the term Negro. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news for all you folks who were so offended by the term Negro. Turns out Negro is the only term that has a blood test. It's the only one. So all you folks who have spent the past year or two doing your absolute best to paint Negro in a negative light, you wasted time off of your life. You wasted time off of your life. You simply wasted time off of your life. And for all you ones who are running around here in the past 2 or 3 months who keep on claiming, keep on trying to paint Negro in a negative light, all of a sudden, all the coons are Negroes. All of a sudden, all the sellouts are Negroes. All of a sudden, all the gatekeepers are Negroes. And they were not Negroes 3 months ago, 6 months ago. But all of a sudden, they became Negroes overnight. All of a sudden, all the persons who identified as coons, they became a Negro overnight. All of a sudden, all persons who are identified as sellouts became a Negro overnight. All of a sudden, all persons who are identified as gatekeepers became a Negro overnight. Well, I think you folks are getting your just due. You are receiving your just due because you didn't care enough to fight for Negro. You didn't care about your ancestors' sacrifice that had Negro on their paperwork. You didn't care about that. You didn't care. You did not care about the sacrifice that all those Negroes made for 246 years as slaves. You didn't care about that wealth that was built off the backs of Negroes for 246 years. You persons did not care about the Negroes who built the infrastructure for 246 years. No, it was more important for you to self-identify. You didn't care about the Negro ancestors who saved the Union in the Civil War. You didn't care about the Negroes who had over 50,000 patents and inventions. No, it was more important for you to self-identify. Well, you self-identified yourself right off of this landmass You self-identified yourself right out of your birthright. You self-identified yourself right out of your ethnicity. You self-identified yourself right out of your identity. Now, the only question left is, do you have the backbone to fight for your ethnicity? Do you have the backbone to fight for your birthright? Do you have the backbone to fight for your identity? Because every immigrant in America is protected. They have each of those three. Every single immigrant in America and those that are coming are protected. They are protected. They have each of those three. Long before they get that Visa card, they have a recognized ethnicity. They have a recognized national origin. They have a recognized nation. Black American and African American and freemen and ADOS and FBA don't have any of those three. So it's time for you adults to stop lying to each other. It's time for you to stop lying to each other. And so I'm going to close it out. I'm going to get ready to close it out. And relax myself for the rest of the evening, because I did not plan on doing a broadcast. I did not plan on doing a broadcast whatsoever. When I woke up this morning, I had no intentions of doing a broadcast when I woke up this morning. But the spirit moved inside of me, and I kind of got folks on these Twitter spaces lying to each other. I got fed up with it. I got fed up with you lying to each other. You still insist on running around here telling folks they are Black Americans. You're still insisting on running around here telling folks they are African American. You still insist on running around here telling folks they are freemen. You still insist on running around here telling folks they are ADOS. You still insist on running around here telling folks they are FBA. You forgot one thing. Where's the blood bank? Where is the original bloodline of each of these terms? Where's the address to the blood bank? Because if you human beings are claiming that that's your birthright, that's your ethnicity, then there should be a address to a blood bank that anyone can go to if they need blood. Or better yet, it should trace back to a specific group of human beings. A specific group of human beings should be able to take a blood test and know that they belong to that bloodline. Don't you think? Don't that make sense? Don't that make sense? Because Germans can do that. Italians can do that. Jews can do that. Asians can do that. Latinos and Mexicans can do that. Irish can do that. Jamaicans can do that. Haitians can do that. Bahamas, Nigerians, Ethiopians, and on and on and on. Each of those ethnicities can trace their origin back to a original bloodline, a original nation. national origin, a recognized nation. So when I woke up this morning in the past day or two, I just got fed up with y'all lying. I just kind of got fed up with hearing all the lying going on. I just got fed up with it. So I stopped what I was doing. I completely stopped what I was doing to do this unexpected broadcast. Because if Donald Trump can walk before a microphone and make the statement that he is looking forward to recognizing the Lumbee tribe of Indians, the Lumbee tribe of Indians, then America clearly have to understand that they have to, it will behoove them to recognize Negro as an ethnicity. It will be advisable to America and to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Donald Trump that they need to step before that microphone and announce that they are going to recognize Negro ethnicity. And each Negro can take a blood test and determine whether they belong to that bloodline. That's what each Negro have to do. Because we're at that crossroad in time. And God's people, Negroes, have to be gathered. God's chosen people who are Negroes have to be gathered. God is going to make sure that he gather his people. God is going to do that. I don't know if you persons who identify as Black Americans and African Americans and freemen and ADOS and FBA are going to be included. That's left up to God. God just may be a little bit angry that you chose to self-identify. I don't know. I don't have anything to say about that. I don't have anything to say about that. That's not, I don't have any power over that. But I think as human beings, we can do our own critical thinking and evaluation and come to a conclusion that God stated very clearly who are the chosen people. And it's stated very, very clearly in the Bible, they are describing Negro slaves, Negro ancestors, Negro slaves, Negro ancestors, Negro slaves, Negro ancestors, not some made up definition called descendants of slaves. That can mean anybody, any bloodline, because there's been slaves all around the world. So y'all really think y'all saying something when you say descendants of slaves? Who are you talking about? Some imaginary person? There was only Negro slavery in America, not something called descendants of slaves. There was only one recorded slavery in America. It was Negro slavery. It was recorded with the word Negro spelled out, with the word slavery spelled out. And it did not spell descendants of slaves. So here we are. Here we are. Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, you, America, needs to understand that if America is going to recognize all these immigrants' ethnicity, then Negro ethnicity continue to be destroyed. It's not no ifs and ands and buts about it. That's what really helped to move me to do this broadcast. I needed to say that out loud. I needed to shout that to the world. I needed to say it out loud. I needed to shout it to the world, and I needed to thank LeFarmer, AEON, and Talent for helping me to have that understanding. I believe I'm a person that believes in speaking my mind. I've always done it. It's been a part of my fiber since as far back as I can remember. I don't know why I turn out to be that way, because I've always been a shy person. I've always been a shy person. And for the longest time, I did not realize I was an introvert. But I was always shy. I was always staying to myself. But I ain't never had a problem speaking my mind. I ain't, ne- I ain't never had a problem speaking my mind. I think it started in my home, being the baby girl. The older siblings don't want to listen to the babies of the family. So I guess I had to learn the hard way to be able to speak my mind if I wanted to be heard. 'Cause older sisters and brothers, they don't want to pay any attention to their baby sisters and brothers. I was the baby girl, and they didn't pay any attention to my baby brother. So we caught it. We got it. We had it bad. So I guess I can blame it on them. Why I am the way I am. Cause I have to blame it on them. I mean, they didn't want to listen to their baby sister, so she had to speak loud and real loud. I know me speaking uh, offends some of you. I'm sorry for that. But you can blame my sisters and brothers because they didn't want to listen to their baby sister. So blame it on them. But I'm thankful that I turned out the way I did. I really am. I thank my special mother. I thank my brothers and sisters. I thank all my family, all my relatives, and also my community. Played a major role in how I was shaped. It played all of that played a major role in shaping me. And I am very thankful and grateful for all of it, all of the positive ways that it impacted my life. I am totally thankful and grateful for how each of those impacted my personal life. But I would not close without saying how special, how very special the Jackson Fives impacted my family and me of their music and their talent that helped me and my brothers and sisters and persons in my community get through a many hard days. Many hard days. I thank the Jackson family, and my prayers go out to their family for the loss of Tito Jackson and all their family members over the years. My prayers and blessings go to the Jackson family. I thank them and my send prayers. It was very painful to hear about Tito Jackson's death and passing. It's been only a short time, and I'll just be sitting working on whatever I'm working on, and I find myself, my thoughts drifting to Tito Jackson. This was before Janet Jackson spoke her truth. Since hearing about Tito Jackson passing, it's left a heavy, heavy burden on my inside because I cannot put into words how much their music made it possible to get through another day. How I can remember it as clear as it was yesterday. How we would turn that music on and we would escape. We would escape if we had to go to bed hungry. We would escape if the electricity was turned off. We would escape if we looked at that worried look on our mother's face. Every day that we had to look at our mother and see that worried look on her face, how she was going to put food in their mouth and how she was going to put clothes on their back. But we could run around and sing the songs that made it possible for us to escape. Because you can't turn the music on when you don't have electricity, but you can certainly run around and sing. you can run around and pretend trying to sing the songs that you can't turn the music on. We did that a whole lot. I mean, my sister was pretty good at imitating singing different songs. So I'm going to close out. I want to thank each and every one of you that popped in for the broadcast. Thank you kindly. Thank you for taking time out your evening. I'll be breaking down this record platforms: YouTube, minds.com, Fanbase, and a couple of my websites. That's going to take some time to get done. But I will take the time to break it down and do a re-recording. It's going to have to be broken down into different parts. So I want to say in closing, thank you again for popping in. I want to thank LeFarmer, AEON, and Talent for helping to educate me about the sacrifice that my Negro ancestors made so that I would have an opportunity for a better life. I want to thank my mother for the sacrifice that she made so that I could have a chance at a better life. I want to thank my brothers and sisters and my community. And most certainly, again, I want to thank the Jackson 5 family, for sharing their talent with my family and me and my community. I want to send a special thank you to Janet Jackson for her bravery to speak truth to power, evil, and money. Thank you, Janet Jackson. Thank you for your bravery and the sacrifice to put your put your life on the line for the collective. Thank you for being willing to do that. Thank you and your family, who will most certainly receive a backlash. Most certainly, you and your family is going to receive a backlash. I'm just going to say right up, I hope to God they don't let the devil tell them to do that. But these evil people, they don't have a brain in their head, and more than likely they are going to listen to the devil, and they are going to try their darnest to deliver a backlash to the Jackson 5 family in some way, form, or fashion. I'm only thing I could say is, if they are brain dead to allow the devil to tell them to do that, okay. If they let the devil tell them to attack the Jackson 5 family, that is going to be a day that they're going to regret. That is going to be a day that they are going to regret. So if they just devil tell them to attack the Jackson 5 family and Janet Jackson, they deserve what they deserve. They deserve what they're going to get. They deserve what they are going to get. Don't let the devil tell you to do that. Just don't let the devil tell you to do it. Do not let that devil tell you to attack Janet Jackson. But for the rest of us, we have the fight of our life in front of us. Each of us have the fight of our life in front of us. The fight of my life is to demand my birthright. The fight of my life is to demand my ethnicity. The fight of my life is to demand my identity. America is trying to rob me of my birthright. America is trying to rob me of my ethnicity, my bloodline. America is trying to rob me of my identity. I am not going to stand for that. And so I'm going to continue to do my broadcast to send America a clear message. That's why Donald Trump and many of you other folks are going to be in my room title going forward. I don't take time off of my life by putting up room titles for nothing. Every time that I put up a room title, it's sending a clear message. I'm making a clear message. I'm making a statement to the whole world. You may think it's just for you folks on Twitter land. Oh no, it's not for just you folks on Twitter land. My titles are to send a clear message. I'm not taking time off of my life for any other reason. I am certainly not sacrificing time off of my life by putting these titles in together. I put great thought. I put great thought into every title that I put up, because I clearly know from having a career in telecommunications. see how things come full circle. When I started my career in telecommunications, I never would have thought that a day would come when I would be doing broadcasts, live broadcasts, using my voice. That never crossed my mind. It never entered my mind that I would use my career in telecommunication in this form or fashion. But my Heavenly Father knew that I was going to be doing this someday when I chose the career telecommunication. I didn't understand it, but that's why my Heavenly Father helped me to make that choice to go into that career, because I had three other choices. I was really supposed to end up in administration, supply, or medical. Those were the three career choices that the recruiter told me. They said, well, based on your score on your test, you can go into any one of these three careers: administration, supply. I didn't want any of those three. I would have went with medical, but I don't like the sight of blood. I really don't. I don't like the sight of seeing folks being cut open. Now, I ain't got no problem. I ain't got no problem fighting you. I ain't got no problem under the sun fighting you. But when it come to folks getting cut open and me having to see a lot of blood, that's a whole nother story. So I told the recruiter that I don't care to see any blood to that degree. And the other two just did not interest me. So anyway, going forward, I will be making it very clear to the OMB and America and Donald Trump and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, you have to recognize Negro ethnicity. Otherwise, America is going to continue to suffer. America is going to continue to self-destruct. America will continue to self-destruct until America do the right thing and sign Special Field Order 15 back into law and recognize the sacrifice of the Negro ancestors and the ethnicity of Negro. That's what my demand is for America. I've already made it very clear that I do not look forward to voting. And as it stands right now, unless America get that done, they're going to help me with my decision not to vote. Let's be clear. I've made it very clear over the past year that I had simple demands that America re-implement Special Field Order 15 and contact IRS for direct cash payments. I've made that clear for well over the last year. But as we know, things constantly change. Things are constantly changing. You're constantly having to reevaluate. So I reevaluated, and I really had thought about voting for a short time. I really did. I really were considering changing my mind, my word to myself, for the greater good of the collective. I was struggling with it. I was literally struggling with it, but I had to say to myself, Aquilin, are you going to make a decision not to vote for your own personal reason? Or are you going to think about the collective? Aquilin, are you going to make a decision not to vote based on your personal reasons? Or are you going to make a decision to vote for the collective? Well, I did my darndest to evaluate clearly, but things are constantly changing. Things are constantly changing. There are so many variables to factor in. And I must tell you, this invasion and the genocide and the erasure of my existence, and the genocide and the erasure of my bloodline has caused me a lot of pain and agonizing to do my absolute best to evaluate, should I participate in this corrupt voting in the next coming days? And I'm telling you right now, I had almost decided to change my mind. I really did. I was thinking that maybe I needed to, if I if only I went out and voted and done my research on each candidate, that I could figure out a way to go down my voting card and vote for an independent person or a write-in person, that I could buy time for my people and myself to get more things in place. Would it be possible for me to buy some time, buy 6 months, buy a year and a half, to give myself and my community time to get better organized, time to better organize their number count, time to buy some land and houses and put some things in place as far as economic assets, more time to build a business network and create jobs, and have the ability to build that business network to support our community and build that infrastructure for future generations. Think about all those factors and variables, and it almost convinced me to change my mind and decide to go vote. But as we know, things are constantly changing. So you're constantly having to reevaluate the decisions that you make. And so I have reevaluated that America will not get my vote this go round. America did not get my vote in 2016. They got my vote in 2020. America will not get my vote in 2024. If Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris don't step before that microphone and recognize Negro as an ethnicity, if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris don't sit down and sign Special Field Order 15 back into law, it don't take the Congress, it don't take the Senate. It take maybe 5 or 10 minutes for Joe Biden, because Mr. Charles in the Negro space educated us in LeFarmer room. So shout out to Mr. Charles. Thank you, Mr. Charles, who informed us that you don't need the Congress, you don't need the Senate, you only need the president to sit down and sign Special Field Order 15 back into law. That shouldn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes. 5 or 10 minutes is what we're talking about here. 5 or 10 minutes. Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, if Joe Biden is too senile to sit down with that ink pen, then Kamala Harris need to sit down with that ink pen and sign Special Field Order 15 back into law. If those two things don't happen before this election, America's not getting my vote. I am not American. My ancestors sacrificed their life to save this union, and America has chosen not to recognize my ancestors. America has chosen not to recognize myself and my birthright. So I don't need to lie to myself and claim that I'm American. I don't need to lie to myself and claim that I'm American. No, I'm Negro. I'm from the Negro nation that my ancestors carved out for 246 years. That's the only American that I know. Is the sacrifice that my Negro ancestors carved out to form a Negro nation over here on this landmass. There's another landmass called Negro land. That's Negro landmass belongs to the Negro bloodline. That Negro land mass on the African continent belongs to the Negro bloodline. The Negro ancestors carved out 246 years on this landmass. And until the good Lord take my breath from me, I'm going to fight for the Negro nation that my Negro ancestors carved out for themselves